Yeah.
You're saying the shita. What are you saying? You're saying a specific shita?
No, I'm saying in all the shitas.
If you had all the money in the world to buy a schach mat, what would be the best one to buy? I'm saying that's not an issue.
Bamboo.
Do they make bamboo mats with bamboo string?
No,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yes, they do.
He was saying not to buy a mat.
I know
He was saying
what
if you have
he's
all the
saying.
money, buy bamboo.
I understand the fish. I understand.
There is the schach canus, I think. I don't know if they sell that around here.
That's the really heavy one made out of the chunks, right?
I don't know exactly. The canus stuff. It's held together with canus stuff. I don't know.
I bought that one years ago. I remember that one.
And it probably blows apart, no?
You have a good year?
It fell apart. It definitely fell apart.
Yeah. That's a riot that it's good.
They last 1 or 2 years and then they're garbage.
There you go.
All right.
Anyways, we're ready to roll. Can I have my
You're
iPad?
saying if it's makabel tumah, then it's not good.
It is good. Me'ikra din, it's good.
What do you make it in? What does that mean?
That's my
It
question.
means if you have it on your sukkah.
That's
already,
my
leave it
question.
on.
Not make or I did. What's
Leave it
what?
on.
If you had it on your sukkah, I would eat there.
Oh.
Are you yoitzel lechatchila?
Lechatchila, no. If it's not makabel tumah, I'm not saying it is or it's not. You know what I mean? But if it's not makabel tumah,
He's not on right now.
then if it's not makabel tumah, then it's fine. Rabbi Yashiv holds they're all not fine, by the way. But not the canis. The canis, he says it's okay. But what do you call it? But even if it's worse comes to worse, it is makabel tumah.
Yeah, if it's makabel tumah, then what?
If it's worse, even if it's makabel tumah, it's still no problem. I'm having internet issues over here. Even it's makabel tumah, me'ikra din, it's okay. The only reason why you can't have schach that's holding up, schach that's makabel tumah is a problem. Something that's not that's holding up the schach that's makabel tumah is only a problem because we're afraid if you're going to do that, then you might end up doing something that's using something that's makabel tumah for the actual schach. But it's a gezeira, which we're not. It's not a gezeira. It's a how do you call it? It's like a harchaka or something.
A gedder.
A gather. There you go. Very good, Naftali. Very good. Right. So since it's a gather, it's not so bad.
Are you kind to mitzvah midiraisa?
Yes, 100%. 100%. Yes. Okay, 1 second.
Is there any negative of putting one of these mats on top of bamboo?
Hold on a second. Let me shut off this.
You're muted.
Sorry, what did you
Is
just
there any
ask?
negative to putting one of these mats on top of bamboo? Let's say you have a mat and you just have an extra lying around. Can you put it on top of bamboo? It's something to take away from the bamboo, right?
Makabel tumah. He doesn't want you to do it the maker a din. That's what he's saying. He's saying you yoitza, maybe not lechatchila. Am I saying it properly?
The chatchila, they tried to make it together. That's all.
Got it.
All right, we ready to roll?
Yeah.
I think we even gave enough time for the Midwesterners to get on.
We have a minion already.
Yeah, okay. All right, so Zok the Mishnah. We're on the Mishnah of Yud Zayin and Beis. Oh, tomorrow night, can we do the daf a little early? Does that work or does that totally not work for anybody?
Of course,
Whatever works for you.
I want to make sure that we'll have a minion at least.
What time do you want to do it tomorrow?
I don't know, maybe.
When works for you?
I don't know exactly. I'm a shtickle flexible, just not the regular time.
Okay.
I would say maybe like 7:45,
Okay.
7:30, 7:45, something in that area.
What time is like the Mincha Myers? Just don't want to do it then you will lose people.
6:40, 6:55.
No, that's that. It'll be after
Okay.
Mincha. Mike.
Okay, so
6:50 is
that's
gonna be
fine.
Mincha.
Yeah, so figure maybe around 7:30, 7:45 in that area. Probably 7:30 if that's okay.
Maybe the 10th.
What?
Maybe the 10th.
Maybe Taka. I don't depends on the humidity. Let me tell you. All right. Okay, so look the Mishnah. Yeah, Choliyas Acharayna. You time based on the Mishnah on the bottom. Choliyas Achar Shabbos. So now until now we were discussing when Yom Tov falls out on a Thursday, Friday before Shabbos. Now this is talking about when Yom Tov falls out on a Sunday. So Choliyas Achar Shabbos v'Shami or Matfilan es Hakol Melefnei Shabbos. You tovel everything before Shabbos, meaning you cannot tovel things on Shabbos for Yom Tov. The kelim you tovel before Shabbos, and a person can be tovel on Shabbos, right? Which we'll see in the Gemara exactly what the issue would be with a person being tovel on Shabbos. The Shavin, when they both agree, shemashikinas amayim b'kli even l'taran. If you need to, if you have tamei water that you want to make tar, so the way to make it tar would be to take it and put it into a stone kli. The reason why you put it into a stone kli is because a stone kli is not makabel tumah, right? And therefore, there's going to be, he said, according to everybody, you're not allowed to tovel kalim on Shabbos or Yom. So what you would do is you take the water that's tamei, you put it into the stone kli, right? Here's a kli. You dip it into the mikvah, up till right where hashaka comes from the word mashikin comes the word kiss. And now the mikvah water kisses the water that's in the pot, and then that connects it to the mikvah water, and that purifies the water. So that you would be allowed to do. They both agree that you're allowed to do that, and that will make the water tahor. But you're not allowed to tovel tamei water. What exactly means? How you tovel tamei water? We'll see. Matfilin megavla gava mechabura lechabura. You're allowed to be tovel from one thing to another thing, and from chabur to chabur, which we'll also see in the Gemara exactly what that means. So basically, the point is that kalim. The problem is that it looks like tikkun. To take something that's tamei and to tovel it, so then that's almost like fixing it, because when it's tamei, it's broken, and then when you tovel it, then it's no longer broken.
So why is it
right?
like tikkun?
So that's
it is
because Lamaisa, you're not doing any malacha. You're right,
So-
but you're not doing any actual malacha. You're just taking something that was not fixed and you're making it fixed.
The
so.
second kli,
But you're not actually fixing.
The second kli is not anything.
Sakin kli is, but you're not doing anything. You're not doing a malacha. It's a spiritual tikkun. It's a spiritual tikkun. Right?
You're making it usable.
What?
You're making it usable.
It's similar to tikkun. It's an issa d'Rabanan because it looks like you're fixing
Maybe
the
it's
kli.
makim patish.
It's not magav patish because the kli was a kli before.
You're not allowed to use it the kli before.
You were allowed to use it. Then it became not usable. Then it became reusable.
Okay,
We'll see in the
but
Gemara.
Shabbos can't-
We'll see how the Gemara discusses it. That the difference between that and the human. So Gemara says the kuli amami is kli b'Shabbos loy. Everybody holds that a kli on Shabbos you're not allowed to do. My time. So the Gemara is going to say 4 tirutzim why you're not allowed to tovel a kli. Amar Rabba gezeira. The first one is shema yitlana b'yadav v'yavirena abra amas v'shisara. Not like we were saying, right? We were saying that we're afraid that you're going to carry a dalar amas v'shisara. So it's okay. So what happens if you have a private mikvah? Then what? Then you're not going to carry it.
No, it's funny. We don't ask this question by Lulav and Shaifer.
What?
Boy, if
You,
I
you
had a-
don't
Right,
use lulav and shayf on Shabbos.
Well,
Exactly.
he's
You
asking
don't use
when
it.
it says Shema Yavirenu.
No, it says Amalei Abai Yeshav Bar B'Chatzerei. So what about if I have a tent in my backyard? Why can't I use the shofar?
What I mean, everybody could. We're talking back then when you blew your own shofar. Everybody
We
blew their
don't
own shofar.
ask this question by shofar.
Correct, because you can't
He's
ask the
saying that
question
the
because
answer by
everybody.
shofar is the answer by shofar is Shema Yavirenu. That's it.
Correct.
Nobody asks by boil, right? What happens if you have a tent like Kaplan?
Doesn't make it. Why are you asking on a tent? You have your own house. You want to blow your own shofar.
Right.
You're not allowed to. You're not
Right.
allowed to.
But what's a bias
Because it's not a question to ask. It's not a question to ask. It's not a question to ask. Everybody has their own shofar, their own lulav and esrog. The whole gezeira is that you're going to go show it to a chacham. So the question maybe is if you have a chacham in the house, right? Or you yourself are a chacham, so you're not going to go. So that would be a question, which I think some I don't know who asked that, but I think I don't know, but I think they asked that. Tais was asked, the top Tais was
Was
asked,
it who you leaving it to decide who's a chacham and who's not? That already you open yourself up to gaiva issues and stuff.
That could be.
What guy? What are you talking about, guy?
That could be, but yeah.
Rabanan, I'm sorry. You could decide.
Why do you
decide.
invent things? Maybe the guy doesn't own any pants and he won't blow because doesn't have pants. He can't blow shofar. What are you asking these questions? What does it have to do with anything?
Got it. Yeah, no problem.
But what is that? But here's the thing. Taisus asks, what about, and we had this before, what about carrying from Rishus Hayel to Rishus Harabim? Why are you only worried about Dalet Amos? Because, and then Taisus says, he said this before also in Sukkah, because there's a hecker, when you're leaving the door of your house, you're going to remember, whoa, 1 second, I'm going to be carrying it to Rishus Harabim. So that's not a concern. The only concern is if it was sitting, the kli was already sitting in the Rishus Harabim, that you might carry it Dalet Amos. Okay, whatever it is. So he says, so I'm like gezeira bar b'chatzera to bar b'shusar. I'm making the gezeira. If you're going to allow it in a bar in the chatzar, you end up doing it in a bar b'shusar. Because Gemara says, "Hatina Shabbos, but Yom Tov ma'ikam." Remember, that's all on Shabbos. Okay, so because there's an isser carrying on Shabbos, but on Yom Tov there's no isser carrying. So why can't I talk about kelim on Yom Tov? Right. So Gemara answers, gezeira Yom Tov to Shabbos. Gezeira Yom Tov.
There's no isser carrying for eichel nefesh. Some to carry, you're allowed to carry.
When on Yom Tov, that's eichel nefesh. That's eichel nefesh. You need a kli. You need a tovel the kli in order to use it. Right. So we say gezeira Yom Tov to Shabbos. Oh, gezeira legezeira. So Taisus says on that, it's not a gezeira to gezeira. The Yom Tov Shabbos achasi. Yom Tov Shabbos is considered one. So that's not considered a gezeira legezeira. Okay, so then the Gemara says, do we make such a gezeira? Now the Gemara is going to have a series of like five questions, maybe, I don't know, at least 5. That do we make these type of gezeiras that you might end up doing one thing if you're going to allow one thing? Because like this, do we make such a gezeira? Right? The end of the Mishna said that everybody agrees that you can do this hashoka. If you need to make the water tar, so you put it into a stone kli, and you put the kli into the water, into the mikva, and then it just touches, and then that makes it tar. But you can't tovel. Why don't we say that? Well, if you're going to allow somebody to take a kli and put it into the mikva so that the water touches each other and it makes it tar, wouldn't you make a gezeira that you might end up by mistake being tovel a kli? So Gemara says, "V'tizbara, he yislei mayim yofim hani lamali." So the Gemara answers back, well, if he had good water, then what does he need to do this for? If he had tahor, clean water, why would he be putting it to the mikvah? Hani lamali lamever. Why does he have to do it? Hani lamali lamever. Hashaka. Why does he have to do this hashaka? El delesle. It means he's talking about where he has no other water. But even delesle, mizazarbu. Since he doesn't have any choice, he's going to be very careful. All right. So, and also Rashi says, since he's going to be careful, then meaning he's going to be careful what? He's going to be careful that his water doesn't become tummy. And if his water by any chance does become tummy, that's uncommon. Meaning again, a guy has very, very little pure water. He knows if that water becomes tummy, he's going to have a problem. He's not going to be able to eat it. Right? So what does he do? So he's going to be very careful to make sure it doesn't become tummy. And if it does become tummy, it's something that's uncommon. And we already learned many times that milsa delay shchicha like gezeira. It's something that's not common. The Rabanan weren't gezeira. So therefore, water that becomes tummy is so uncommon, we can allow somebody to tovel it, and it's still going to be fine. So Eisvei, so they asked the kasha, medalim b'tli tummy. what you can do is, let's say you have a deli that's tummy and you want to make it tar. A deli is a bucket that you draw water with. So it became tummy. So what are you going to do? What you do is draw water from a mikvah for it because you need the water. And once that bucket goes in the water, that water becomes tar. The bucket becomes tar, like agav, right? From by itself. Meaning you weren't looking to tovel, you were just looking to take yourself water out of the well. Because you took water out of the well, now it became tar, right? So for who tar, and then it became tar, and we're going to allow that because that
is this like harama?
It's not really harama because you need the water.
But the only reason you're doing it is because you want the bucket to be tahor.
Correct. But now you're gonna so you really Rashi and Tosfos both ask. I don't know if that's exactly what you're asking, but Rashi and Tosfos both ask.
Yeah, I wonder what does this mean? I don't understand.
Meaning, because the Gemara says in the next line that you're not allowed to be tovel from the kli on the kli to be matar, right? So he says there in the Mishna when it says that you're not allowed to tovel water to make the water tahor, that's when the bucket was already full of water. So it's clear that you're not putting the bucket into the mikvah in order to get water because your bucket's already full of water. It just happens to be tummy water. Here we're talking about where your bucket's empty. The bucket happens to be tummy. What you do is you're pulling a shtick. Yes, it is some sort of harama that you're taking out water. And mamela, agav, the kli is going to become tar. Which the Gemara is going to ask. Why don't we make a gezeira? If we're going to allow this guy to pull this shtick, so why don't we make a gezeira that the guy's going to outright just tovel the kli? Right? So the Gemara answers no. Since we only allowed him to do it if he's going to actually pull up water, then he's going to remember that the only reason why he was able to tovel this kli is because he was drawing water with it, but not because he's allowed to. Not because we're allowing him to be toveled, so he's not going to get confused. Okay, third case. Eisvei, kli shenitam erev Yom Tif, ein matvilan osav b'Yom Tif. If a kli became tamei erev Yom Tif, you're not allowed to tovel it on Yom Tif. B'Yom Tif, but if it became tamei on Yom Tif, matvilan osav b'Yom Tif. You are allowed to tovel it on Yom Tif, right? Yeah, so now how is it going to work? It needs head of shemesh, which we're going to see in tomorrow's daf or the next day's daf, right? Because chulin, that's just being eaten batara, does not need to wait that night. Okay, whatever that is. Why are we allowing this guy to be tovel his kli on Yom Tiv? Meaning, again, we're allowing him to be tovel on Yom Tiv because it became tamei on Yom Tiv. If it became tamei on erev Yom Tiv, you can't tovel it on Yom Tiv. So why are we allowing it? The guy's going to get confused. He's going to say, well, I was tovel my kli that became tamei Yom Tov. I might as well be tovel the kli that became tamei erev Yom Tov. The misa nixer the Yom Tov atu the erev Yom Tov. Why don't we make a gezeira of Yom Tov because of erev Yom Tov? So we say tuma v'Yom Tov milsa l'shchichi. Tuma on Yom Tov. People are always very careful. So it's something that's not common. Milsa l'shchichi like as a Rabanan. Like we said before, something that's not common. There's no gezeira.
It's not common for a bug to fall into a guy's.
No, we're not talking. No, we're talking about tuma. No, we're talking about a bug. A bug's not matama. A sheretz.
A sheretz falls into the guy's cup.
I imagine it's not so common. I imagine it's not so common.
It doesn't happen.
Yeah, and also it happens, but not so common. Also,
does that make sense? I'm saying.
Yeah, why not? We're really more worried about.
Why not? How often does it happen to you?
You never find the bug in your kiddush cup.
A bug is not matama.
Often? No, never. Often? No.
Outside. I don't know. I'm saying
David told me he never found a raccoon in his kiddush cup. Never ever.
We're talking about a little fly.
That
no,
doesn't
little
make
fly's
you
not
tummy. Doesn't make you
okay,
tummy.
we're talking about an ant.
No.
Doesn't make your cup tummy.
It doesn't. Only a sheretz. It's large. Also, we're also worried about people, right? So people become tummy, and people are very careful not to become tummy. We're more worried about people than shrutzim, and people are not. People are careful on Yom Tov time not to be tummy. So in the fourth kasha, Eisvei kli shenita ba'avatuma ein matvilan as Yom Tov. Kli became tummy with an avatuma, which is from a mace, right, or the shmeina shrutzim, not ants, but shmeina shrutzim, right. So then ein matvilin as yontif, you can't be tovel on yontif because that's mamash tikkun. But vlada tuma, but if it comes tummy with a vlada tuma, which is once removed from an avatuma, matvilin oisai b'yontif, then you are allowed to tovel it on yontif. The misa nigzor ha'atuha. That's the case. Why don't we make gezeira from one because of the other? So Gemara says vlada tuma heichim mishkach. So the Gemara's answer is, how do you find the vlada tuma? Gabi kayhanim. That's only really negate to kayhanim, right? Yisraelim don't really have to be worried about vlada tuma.
What do you mean?
Right?
What does that mean? Well,
Because you're eating a sheni doesn't. A vlada tuma means it's a rishon, right? Everything after that is not really. By chulin, a sheni doesn't make a shlishi, and only if you're going to be eating truma. So since a sheni is not really only making a shlishi, so it doesn't make a shlishi. So then it's not going to be a problem. But for kehanim, it'll be a problem because they eat truma. So since it's for kehanim, gabi kehanim, it's reason haim, kehanim is reason. So therefore, since there's reason, they're going to know the halacha. Okay, so Tashma, Damar Rav Chia the fifth, right? I think we're up to the fifth. Tashma, Damar Rav Chia Barashi Yomar Rav Nida Shein La Begadim Rabanan. This is negated to you with the not the Nida part. I'm saying to the ocean, right? Going in the ocean. This is for the oilam that goes to the mikvah in the ocean on Erev Yom Tiv, Erev whatever, right? So Damar Rav Chia Barashi Rav Nida Shein La Begadim. Let's say a Nida has to go to the mikvah on Yom Tiv, but she has no clothing. They're all tummy. Now she obviously doesn't want to have tummy clothing. Right? So ma'aremes v'teveles b'begadesh. This one here, David, the Gemara actually calls it a harama. She could do a harama and she could go to the mikvah with her clothing on. Right? So if the clothes, which she goes with her clothing on, so the tefillah is going to be good, and then agav, the clothing is going to become tar, even though on Yom Tov you're not allowed to be tovel these things.
Yeah, but here the whole reason she's doing it is to make herself tahar, and she doesn't have other clothing, so she'll get these clothing tahar also. The other case was he didn't really care about the water. He only wanted the bucket to be toveled.
It's not the normal way of doing it.
I understand it's not the same.
Yeah.
So I'm asking, why is she allowed to do that?
Why don't we say it's a chatzitza?
Because otherwise she wouldn't go to the mikvah.
Oh, it's loose.
She has no clothing.
It's not a chatzitza. It's loose.
She wouldn't go to the mikvah.
So that's the first thing Aaron Zweig is right. It should be a chatzitza. And you're right, Zev, that it's loose. Since it's loose, it's not a chatzitza, which is why all the men, especially that's for ladies. Imagine for a man, all these men that are losing their bathing suits in the ocean when they go to the mikvah, it's not really a concern because so sometimes it's the waist is a little tight, so you got to loosen up the waist, and that's all, and then you're okay. That's the first thing you learn.
But it's not the normal thing to do it. Why would you be allowed to do that?
What? Well, you're saying it's not a normal thing to do, so it's too obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah, so okay, so let's see. Well, that's really the Gemara's kasha.
Gemara asks about schita.
What's that? The Gemara's not asking about schita. Taisa says, we'll get to that in a minute. If we're going to allow a woman to go into the mikvah with clothing on, so maybe she'll end up putting the clothing straight into the mikvah. So the answer is no, you can't make that. You can't say that. Since we only let her tovel these clothing when she's wearing it, so she's going to remember that's why she was able to tovel the clothing, but she's not allowed to. She knows that she's not allowed to just tovel the clothing straight. Now, Tosfos asks a very simple kasha. We know that if something gets dirty on Shabbos, your shirt, your suit, are you allowed to put water on it on Shabbos? You are not allowed to. We paskin, you're not allowed to just put water, even if you don't scrub it or anything, because it's called shriyasei zuhi kibusei. Soaking it is considered laundering. So why is she not laundering her clothing on Yom Tiv, which is also?
No, she doesn't want to launder it.
But she is.
It's a secretion.
So what? Subsecration is also.
You don't care.
It's of course it's nichalei. And even loy nichalei. Who says loy nichalei is not also? Tosfos says different terror. So Tosfos says that. What are you saying? Somebody was saying something? Anyways, Tosfos says that it's derech tinuf because it's not going to come out clean, right? It's not you have to use detergents or whatever it is. You're just putting your clothing in there. It's going to be derech tinuf, right?
Means it's gonna what?
It's going to end up being dirtier than it was before, which is why you're allowed to clean up spills with shmatas and clothing like that because it's called derech tinuf. That's not called washing it. And then Tosfos says a very interesting thing. He says, how do we dry our hands on a towel? How do you dry your hands with a towel? Forget about your body with a towel, showering on Yom Tov. How do you dry your hands with a towel?
That cleans the towel?
Well, you're putting clean water, relatively clean water. So that's what Tosfos' answer is. That's not clean. You're making it dirty. Normally, we hold you're not allowed to make garments wet on Shabbos and Yom Tov, right? So Tosfos is saying, oh, this lady's making it wet. How are you allowed to do that? Tosfos answers, because that's going to really make it dirty. It's not clean water. And then Tosfos says, that's why we're allowed to use a towel on Shabbos, even though we're making the towel wet, because that's making it really dirty, because nobody would call that cleaning by taking, the dirty water off your body.
How would a person allowed to take a shower on Yom Tov? Maybe he's going to make the towel.
Right, so that's dirty. That makes the towel dirty.
When he goes out of the shower, he comes and takes the towel.
Yeah, so that makes the towel dirty. That makes it dirty. So that's why it's okay.
The body's clean.
Right. What?
Right.
Yeah. Zev, go take a shower, then put the towel back in the cabinet and watch the wife kill you.
Well, the hotels try to do that shtick by saying they're trying to save the what's it called? What do you call it?
Aaron, here I thought you were trying to mute Zeb by telling him to go take a shower. I was very proud of you.
Anyways, okay, so that's the first teretz is that we're worried about carrying. Next teretz, Rabbi Yosef Amar, gezeira mishum schita. It's a gezeira because you might end up use toveling kalim and you might end up squeezing it out. Buy a tin of kalim. That's good by kalim to bnei schita ninu, right? For that's clothing. Kalim, meaning kalim, by the way, kalim could be used for clothing too. Kalim to labane schita ninu, like a pot. There's no squeezing by a pot. What are you going to say? No, we're afraid of going to allow you to tovel a pot. We're going to end up allowing you to tovel clothing too. So we have all these 5 kashas that we asked. That maybe do we make gezeiras? V'shani like a we'll answer the way we answered it. Okay, so that's the second teretz is we're afraid you're going to squeeze it out. Third teretz.
What do you mean? We'll answer the way you'll answer that one.
Meaning the 5 kashas of why don't we make gezeira this way? Why don't we make gezeira that way?
Because that's true.
Yeah, whatever the 5 terutzim were the previous kashas.
Okay.
So Rabbi has a different thing, which is what I think a lot of us would do. You have tefillas kalim, right? Why should you do it? Why should you do it on what do you call it? On during the week when you have work? Wait till you do it till Shabbos. Wait till you Shabbos and do it there. Yeah. So Tanya Kava say
do what? Tefillas kalim on Shabbos?
On Shabbos or Yom Tov. Yeah. Why you have plenty of time. Right? You have plenty of time to do it.
Why would that not be masaking?
It would be. No, I mean this is not going with the shitas of masakin. That's the fourth and final answer is masakin. We're not going with the shita of masakin. We're saying even if you hold it's not masakin, we're afraid that people are going to leave it for Yom Tov, and it's a bizayon to Yom Tov. And also they're going to leave it for Yom Tov, people are going to end up becoming tamei because of it, because you have these tamei kalim laying around. Which is garada the halacha that you're not. So if you buy new utensils, you should not leave it around your house to tovel it. You're supposed to tovel it right away because somebody's gonna end up using it, not when it's not toveled.
Right? You mean it? But it should. So, but can it sit in the car for 3 months? It's not in the house.
That's a good question. It's a good question.
Not in the house, but it's in the car.
I would think so.
If it's a shot cup, then no, because you're not using it in the car.
You hope.
Yeah, speak for yourself.
Yeah.
He has special car beer. He doesn't use a shot cup for beer.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's that one. Tani Kava say the Rabbi Klisha nito be'erev Yom Tov ein matvilin osav Yom Tov gezeira shema yisha. A klina became tamei erev Yom Tov. You're not toveling on Yom Tov because it's a gezeira that you might leave it. Fourth final answer. Rava Amar v'nei k'masakin kli. It's because you look like you're fixing the kli. Right?
How does it look?
Yeah, and it's like a malacha. Yochi Adam Nami. So then according to Beis Hillel, we said a person can be tovel. Right? So how come he could be? Adam Nira can make her. A person looks like he's not toveling for kashrus purposes. He looks like he's hot, so he wants to cool off. Right? Which is why we allow mikvah for men, or parrots when you go on your dip in the country. This is why it's mutter, because it doesn't look like you're going to mikvah. It looks like you're going to cool off, right? But again, no hot water. Not hot. We're talking cold.
Are you saying you're allowed to go for a swim if you're hot on Shabbos?
That's basically what comes out from this.
That you can't because you're going to build a boat.
That's in an ocean, but that's a different sugi.
What about a pool?
Right, so a pool
promise I'm not going to build a boat. I promise I'm not going to build a boat.
Famous line. What do you mean? It's a famous line.
A pool is more lenient. Yes, a pool is more lenient. What? But okay, whatever it is. But the point is, the reason why men's mikvah or any mikvah, it's just why I'm saying men's. It's even women's mikvah. The reason why you're allowed to go to the mikvah is because you look like you're cooling yourself off. But a hot mikvah is not allowed. So Gemara says, "Wait,
this is going on a tefillah deraisa. We would be aser at tefillah deraisa because of these reasons."
We're going to get to tefillah deraisa number base. We'll get to number base. Yeah. So the Gemara says, "Hatinach ma'im yafim ma'im roi ma'ikul meimar." That's if you guys going into nice water. So he's going to cool himself off. But he's going into disgusting water. What are you going to say? Nobody's going to say he's going into the cool off. They're going to say he's going to this disgusting water because he wants to be tovel. So on top of base now. A person comes in major heat, and he'll wash himself even in May Mishra, even in flax water, because he's so hot, right? That he's just going to take any water that he can. So then the Gemara says, okay, so that's in the summer, but in the winter, if you see a guy dunking into some ugly water, some disgusting water, what are you going to say then? Right? Am I frozen or am I still there?
Yeah.
You're good.
You're good.
You're there.
All right, because I see everybody frozen, so I just want to make sure. Yes, sometimes he comes dirty with maru b'tzaya and excrement. Even in the rainy season when it's cold, he's still going to wash himself because he's so dirty.
He's coming home on Shabbos with mud, with soil, with mud.
When he traveled, yeah. Sometimes you come home late or whatever it is. Yeah. That's
the Kuli Rabanan that came home at Shmini Atzeres and they didn't have the whole sukkah because they were in the field.
Right.
Some of they were dirty and they took a bath.
Seems like
David, they didn't have sidewalks. They walked on the dirt roads.
No, but it seems like they even stayed in their fields over Yom Tov, right? That's what Gershon's saying. We had that. They came back. They didn't even have so they didn't even have take lulav and esrog yet. They didn't even sit in sukkah yet. They made a shechiyano at the end of Yom Tov, whatever that meant. Either way, so then the Gemara says, Tinach b'Shabbos Yom Kippur ma'iklim. Man, what about Yom Kippur? Right? Meaning on Yom Kippur, everybody knows you're not allowed to wash. So would you allow him to do this too? Because again, it's not.
You just had the case last week when the Sherman fellas were working by the hospital in the fire. So they're covered with smoke and they go into the mikveh Friday night. That's the case.
Well, okay, that would be a case too. So what happens if it happens on Yom Kippur? So Rava answers, Mika Midi. Is it possible to be Shabbos Shari, something that's going to be mutter on Shabbos, but we Yom Kippurim Aser, and on Yom Kippur is going to be Aser?
What's so shver about that? Yeah, eating.
No. We're talking about malacha.
No, not the 5 noon. We're talking about malachas.
Right. Malacha. Is it possible that there can be that on something that's mutter on Shabbos and Yom Kippur is Aser al malacha?
Why is that why is it so hard to understand that there could be something on Yom Kippur, which is Shabbos Shabbos, and that's Aser on the regular Shabbos?
No,
it's mutter on the regular Shabbos.
Not a malacha.
Oh, that's what the Gemara is saying. It can't be.
Those 5 things, Naftali, that you're talking about is Inuim.
He's talking about something else, but it's not such a crazy thought.
That's what I'm saying. I understand there's 5 Inuim.
No,
but
besides Inuim, the malachas of Shabbos and Kippur are identical. What do you mean?
I'm saying
Yeah, so
Yom
anyways,
Kippur is
that's-
called
that's what he
Shabbos
said.
Shabbosim.
Right.
So why
so
is
the
it so
Gemara
hard to
goes-
understand that something could be usher on Shabbos
Yes.
Shabbosim that's mutter on Shabbos? That's what I'm
Correct.
asking.
Correct. Right. See Rashi, the way Rashi says is Mika Midi in the fourth line down in Rashi. Is it possible that that something on Shabbos is going to be mutter and it's not going to be an Isser Midirabanan? Asking the other way around. By the way, it's not asking that it's mutter on Shabbos. It's mutter on Shabbos. It's asking is it possible that something's asr on Yom Kippur, right? I mean that's what it's saying. Is it possible something's mutter on Shabbos and asr on Yom Kippur, right? And by meaning, but Rashi's saying at least midirabanan. I think Rashi's answering your kasha that it's you're right. It could very well be Shabbos Shabbos and it's more chomer on Yom Kippur. But Shabbos they're gonna at least ask them midirabanan. Right, that's the way Rashi says it.
How do you read that in Rashi?
Ho'il b'Shabbos shari b'Yom Kippur nami shari. No, it's got to be that if it's mutter on Shabbos, it's also mutter on Yom Kippur. So Gemara says, "Mi yislei l'Rava Ho'il." Does Rava hold of Ho'il? Right, but tanna chayshish b'shina. If somebody's got a toothache, he should not swallow vinegar on Shabbos, right? Because it looks like he's doing refuah, right? Because normal people don't swallow vinegar. Yeah, aval metavel but kidarke, but he can dip it in vinegar in the regular way. Nisrapa, and if it gets cured, he gets cured, right? This is the same thing with the schnapps. Schnapps, if you have a toothache, so you can do schnapps, right? Rabanan, they asked the stira, Allah yigma pilot, he can't take it and then spit it out, because then that looks like he's doing refuah, but he's allowed to swallow it. That's megama means to put into his mouth and swallow it. The Mishna Taka is only talking about when it says it's not allowed. It's talking about when he spits it out. I'm
saying, but now we're saying people sometimes sip vinegar before a meal. Didn't we say before people don't sip vinegar?
What?
Didn't we say you're not allowed to do it because it's not the normal way for people to eat vinegar? Now we're saying people do sip vinegar before a meal.
We do, yes. We're adjusting. Depends how you do it. Do you swallow it? Do you spit it out? In the beginning, you thought there was no differentiation. Now we're saying no, they do. They will swallow. They're not going to spit it out. That's not right. That's exactly what the Gemara is saying. The Gemara is adjusting the lo yigma. Right? Says when the Mishnah says that it's also to do it, that's if they spit it out. He says you could even have it where he puts in the mouth and he swallows. When somebody's doing it before, tibul here means the meal, right? If he's doing it before the meal, so then it's not obvious because that's what people did as an appetizer. They dipped stuff into vinegar. But after lachar tibul, after the meal, nobody does that. So then everybody's going to see it's very clear that he's doing it for a fool. And if what we're saying is true, name a ho'il v'koydem tibul shari lachar tibul nami shari. Why don't you say ho'il, right? Since before the meal, it's mutter to do this because it looks like you're eating. So after the meal should also. So the Gemara says, Hadar by Rabba Me'ahi. Rabba went back. He changed his mind. Right? So then he decided that you could go on Yom Kippur to the mikveh because of ho'il. Right? And Rashi says that means he went, basically Rabba took back his teretz and he went like Abaya. So the Gemara says, who says that he went back and changed his vinegar psak? Maybe he changed his psak about Yom Kippur and he would not allow it. So lo sekadai, don't think that. The Tanya, kol chavi tefilus tovel kedarkan bein b'tisha b'av bein b'Yom Kippur. Anybody who's chayiv tovel is tovel in the regular way, whether it's on Tisha B'av or whether it's in Yom Kippur. So since we know that if somebody needs to tovel themselves, they go to the mikvah. So therefore, on Yom Kippur and Tisha B'av, so we know for sure that he had to hold that you do go to the mikvah. Now the question is, why don't we go to the mikvah? Why don't we go to the mikvah, Tisha B'av, and Yom Kippur? Yeah. So because the reason is because meaning women. We're not talking about men. women. How come women who's need this? How come they don't go? So
No,
Taisa says
why?
because
it's not because the dates are not. We're machmir 5 and 7.
correct. So that's the first thing, is that we are more machmir, and really our women are not going to the mikvah at the proper time anyway. Since they're not going at the proper time, then they're not allowed to. Then we're not going to let them go. But for tumah, if it would be for tumah and tahara purposes, then we would allow women to go to the mikvah on Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur, and also they can't be with their husbands anyways. So there's no reason for them to go. But theoretically, if there was a reason for them to go, then women would go to the mikvah on Tisha B'Av and Yom
What
Kippur.
about the Kohen Gadol? He went on Yom Kippur.
That's because you're allowed to. If there's a tzarech, you're allowed to. Back then, for the days of Tum and Tara, even a man could go to the mikvah if he was Tameh on Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur. That's not a rechitza shel tainug. On Yom Kippur, it's only washing for enjoyment.
Somebody did Tisha B'Av by night. Today it doesn't apply. Somebody did Tisha B'Av by night, then burial. So he's allowed to go Tisha B'Av morning to the mikvah. The same.
Yes. Well, I don't know too much mace. You got to wait, whatever. But yeah.
You're Roman Shemesh. You got to wait the Roman Shemesh, right? You got to wait.
You need a Shemesh ball for mace. You need a week.
Right.
It's based on tefillah b'zman a mitzvah.
That's part of it. Yeah. Yeah. If we would pass tefillah b'zman a mitzvah. Either way, nowadays not negeya. So that's what Tosfos says. That's the Tosfos to the right. Okay. So they both agree that you're allowed to do hashaka, which is again putting the tummy water in the stone thing and putting it into the mikvah. What does it mean? But you're not allowed to do. So he said, but you're not allowed to tovel water, tovel tummy water. What does that mean? Amar Shmuel, ein matfilin es akli al gavim of l'tara b'yomtiv. You're not allowed to be tovel a kli through its water to be matared on Yom Tov, which is what we said on Amud Aleph, right? Tosfos says, so what do you mean? You said that you're allowed to draw water out of the well, and that will be mataher the kli. So what do you mean? Here we're saying that you can't be mataher a kli with the water that's inside it. Yeah, so that's what Tosfos says. Is that here we're talking about where there's tummy water in the kli already. So there's no reason to draw water out of it. But if the kli was empty, then you would be allowed to. So the Gemara says, Mani masnisen. Who's our Mishnah? Loi Rebbi v'loi Rabanan. Our Mishnah is not Rebbi and not the Rabanan. The Tanya ain't matilin as a kli al gav meim of the Tara. A person is not allowed to be tovel a kli that has tummy water in it in order to be matar the kli. Ve'en mashikin esamayim b'kli even l'tara. And you're not allowed to do ashaka with a stone kli. Divrei Rebbi, that's what Rebbi also. Chamamayrim matvilin kli al gav meim of l'tara. You are allowed to tovel a kli. Right? So basically, Rebbi and the Rabbanan, it's all or nothing, meaning they either matter, but one either matters both or asers both. Our Mishnah allows hashaka, doesn't allow tefillin the kli. That's not Rebbi and that's not the Rabbanan, because Rebbi and Rabbanan are all or nothing. Right? Money, Rebbi, kasha hashaka. If our Mishnah is Rebbi, there's a question of the hashaka. Rabbanan, kasha atfala. It's a kasha from tefillah. Because again, Rebbi matters both. Rebbe asers both, and the Chachamim say both are mutter. Our Mishnah says one is mutter, one is aser, so it's going to be a kasha. So the Gemara we can be both ways. Iba is saying Rebbe, Iba is saying Rabbanan. Our Mishnah could either be one or the other. Iba is saying Rebbe, Reisha the Braisa b'Yomtiv. The first Reisha, the Reisha is talking about on Yomtiv. The Seifa is Shabbos, and the Seifa is talking about on Shabbos. Right? V'kulam masnisim b'Yomtiv. And the whole Mishnah is talking about Yom Tiv. So again, the Braisa is talking about, in the Reisha, it's Yom Tiv, right? The Seifa is Shabbos, so it's more strict. And the Mishnah is talking about on Yom Tiv, so that's why one is allowed, one is not allowed. On Talmud Aleph, if I say Rabbanan, all we can say is Rabbanan, but Kula Masnisim b'Shabbos, and the Mishnah is talking about on Shabbos. So there the Chachamim differentiate between doing this Hashaka business and we're not doing the Hashaka business. And the other one, it does, and the Braisa is talking about on Yom Tiv. So therefore, there is no differentiation. According to Rabbanan, on Yom Tiv, both are okay. Let's just go to the Mishnah because we want to try and make up the first day Yom Tiv. It's not a hard Gemara. Yeah, Tanna Rabbanan. If you have a kli that became Tamei Erev Yom Tiv, you're not allowed to tovel bein hashmashos. Why? Because we know that something normally that's Tamei needs Erev Shemesh. Meaning it needs to be toveled before shkia, and then you tovel in a shkia. Meaning if you want to be a smart guy, you tovel your kli, let's say shkia is 7 o'clock, you tovel at 6:59, you're good to go. But let's say you ended up toveling at 7:01, so now you got to wait a whole nother day. So we're saying if a kli became tamei in Erev Yom Tov ben hashmashos, you're not allowed to do it. So we don't know if it was already too late. Even during the week, you can't do a ben hashmashos, not just on Yom Tov, because you have the same problem.
Why can't you tovel ben hashmashos?
Because then you have to wait whole nother day. And you could, but you have to wait another day.
Could you
right, but the person may not wait. He's going to think he got it. He's going to think he got it in before and he didn't. Right?
Doesn't it go as to wait?
It's interesting because Rashi says, what do you mean during the week? He says that if you see somebody toveling their kalim after shkia during the week, you got to make a macha on him. Right? And he says the guy's toveling then, so maybe why are you making a macha? Maybe the guy needs it for tomorrow. No, the Gemara is saying the assumption is that he doesn't need it for tomorrow. Why is he toveling it right now at night? If he needs it for tomorrow, let him just tovel it tomorrow. He's toveling it at night. It must be he thinks that he's allowed to do that. So you have to tell him, by the way, you're making a mistake. It's too late to tovel. You got to wait. You're going to have to wait till tomorrow. So the Tanna Kama boy head of Shemesh, and the Tanna Kama doesn't need head of Shemesh. How come the Tanna Kama says during the week it's no problem? So Marava Ashkechtinu Rabanan the Bei Rav the Yasu Kamri. I found the Bei Rav that was sitting in the same Mashavta Nikeres Mitoch Ma'asav Kamifli. They're having a machlokes, which is quite an interesting machlokes. When you can you say that a person's thoughts are recognizable from his actions? Meaning, do we say that based on the person's actions, we can figure out what he really wants to do? What's the case? Going to knock it, he has a utensil in his hand and he's running. We see him running to the Mikva ben hashmashos. Why is he running? Right? We see a guy running with a kli, right by the shkia time. What's he running for? Made the yadi the boy head of Shabbos. It must be he knows that he needs to get it in before shkia because he needs to wait for shkia in order for it to become fully tar. And then memela, but he missed it. Yeah, and then he's going to end up botching it. So you have to tell him. No, he's just running because he's busy. He's got to go to work. So memela, I'm sorry. So the first one says you don't have to make a protest because he's running because he knows about Erev Shemesh. And he knows if he misses shkia, then he's going to have to wait another day. The second guy, we're afraid he's running because of work. He has no idea about Erev Shemesh. You got to let him know, by the way, you missed the boat. And I told them, and I told them that from a person's machshavas can be recognized one as ma'aser, and there's no machlokes. Right? We know that we assume that they know. Anybody running knows that he knows about Erev Shemesh. The case is talking about where it became tamei with a sheretz that's smaller than an adasha. Right? Meaning, because we know that one of the shrotzim is, if it's the size of a lentil, it will make something tamei, but less than a lentil size of a sheretz will not make a kli tamei. So he came to ask if it became tamei his kli with a small little piece of meat from a sheretz. He came to ask the rabbi, is it tamei or not? So he didn't know. If he didn't know the halacha that something less than a lentil's worth is not tamei, so he doesn't know any halacha, and therefore he must not know any tum and tara. Therefore, you have to tell him. He knows. He doesn't know about tum of less than lentil size, but Erev Shemesh he does know. It's quite interesting. He's saying like, first of all, how do you know the guy's running? What shaila he's going to ask? What does he have a sign on his social media? He put it out there that he's running to ask the rabbis the shaila, and what shaila he's running to ask them. That's one. Two is, do we say that one person is an amoritz in one thing, he's going to be an amoritz in another? Who says? Right? Fine. Is Amidus frozen up, or can anybody hear me?
No, you're good.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, are these two halachos the most common shilas that we're assuming everybody's going to know them?
Well, you'd think Herav Shemesh should be more common, but that's really, you're right. That's the machlokes. Can we assume that a
you
guy?
think most people know that Herav Shemesh by toveling a kli?
I don't know. That's mamish the machlokes. Do we assume
And
people know or people don't?
And is it a milsim the shchicha that it's going to come in contact with an adasha with a sheriff?
Yeah, but this is not a takona thing. It's not a takona thing. It's all a matter of, do we have to make a machod? Do we not have to make a machod? Can we assume that the guy's tummy or not? Okay, let's just finish up the Gemara. Matfilim migav legav. You can be tovel from one thing to another thing. What does that mean? What's gav legav? So I write somebody wants to make his wine press. Al gav kadoy, by using the utensils that he did for his oil, right? Meaning you did it, you made your kalim tahar to use it in the wine press, or the opposite, or to use it for oil, and now you want to change it to use it for the wine press. So then Isa, he's allowed to do it, right? Or do you have to do it because what?
What does that mean? You guys are wine press
because you didn't have it with the right kavanah.
I need to have tefillah my kalim for the right kavanah.
Yeah, meaning but it's hard for us to understand this for nowadays, right? Because you want to have it for the right reason. Look at the next case, and then maybe it'll get clearer or less clear. I don't know. Look at the next. Ketzad mechabura lechabura. What's the case of chabura lechabura? Hayayicha bechabura zu. Right, we know from Pesachim that you have to have the korban pesach with one chabura. So if you toveled your kalim to eat it with chabura A, but right to lecha bechabura acheres, and you decide to do it with another chabura harashus b'yada, you're allowed to do it, and you're allowed a tovel to go from one chabura to the other chabura. Now, why do you have to? Right?
Yeah.
Meaning you don't. The Gemara is saying you don't have to tovel it from one chabura, even though you had in mind to do it for this chabura, or you had in mind to use it with oil, and then you change your mind, you want to use it with grapes. Whatever it is, me'ikar adin, you don't have to, like the oilam is saying. But if you decide to be machmar because you didn't have the right kavanas in Tuma and Tara, then you're allowed to, because really it's not a legitimate tefillah, because you don't really need it. So you want to do it out from kite, so you're allowed to do it, which is also, I think, why men can be tovel in the mikvah. It's not really, it's tesefes tahara. It's tesefes tahara. Okay, so we'll stop here. My iPad's going to die in a second. So tomorrow, figure berach around 7 after the mincha ma'ariv. Something I'll text it out exactly.
I mean, you could understand. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
You
can understand this a little bit if you invited for Suda, our Chabura. We want to have the Suda together. And all of a sudden you get invited to Reb Chaim's house and you're bringing the Becha. So you'd say, let me go be toveled again. I'm going to Reb Chaim for the Suda. That's all.
I could hear. I hear that.
Yeah.
I hear.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, I
All
wasn't
right.
speaking for you.
Shkaya, thank you.
Okay.
I know the Shabbos I'd have.
So what do we say tomorrow? What time?
Shabbos I have, but we eat together. So I'd go to Reb Chaim. I'd have to be toveled again. I'm talking to myself. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
What time do we say tomorrow?
7:30.
7:30. Okay.
7:30 is fine.
Oh, Reb Reis, how are you? Good tvach.
Good luck. I'm here.
He's been here, Yaakov.
Are you good? Okay, good. We stalled it out for enough to get you on.
The Baltic. I sent you a calendar. You saw it?
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah.
Yeah. 5 minutes makes a difference. It was good. Baruch Hashem. I learned the daf also, so that helped. Baruch Hashem. But good tvach. I'll see you in the morning.
Okay. Good tvach, everybody. Sag gesund.
Tavach, Yashikaya. Or Tzviaga is gone. All right, so get back.